Here in the next few minutes, I'm going to explain how to play You Shook Me All Night Long by AC/DC. Now here, I am playing with a Fender Stratocaster and a distortion pedal. If you want to match the sound of this song, you will want to be playing a Les Paul with a distortion pedal. But here I'm going to teach how to play the song. The notes are the same no matter what guitar you play it on. But like I said, if you want to match the tone of Angus Young, you will probably want to play this with a Les Paul. Now, throughout my explanation here, I'm going to refer to my strings by their letter names. The top string is the low E, the second from the top is the A, the third from the top I will refer to as the D string, the fourth from the top is the G, the fifth from the top is the B, and my bottom string is known as the high E string. I'm in standard tuning, and what I'm going to do here is I'm first going to play the introduction in real speed and then I'll break it down. But first, here's the introduction played in real speed. Now for the introduction here, I've broken it down into three parts. In part one, we begin by forming what is known as a G5 open position power chord. And in this position here, what we're going to do to form this chord is you're going to take your pointer finger and you're going to lay it flat on the neck of the guitar so that you bar across your B and your high E strings here at the 3rd fret. So I've got my pointer finger laid flat there. It's firmly pressing down across my bottom 2 strings at the 3rd fret. And what we're going to do here to begin in part one is we're going to strum from our D string down. So the notes in this chord will be the open D string, the open G, and then the 3rd fret of both the B and the high E string. And like I said, this chord is known as a G5 open position power chord. We'll strum our bottom 4 strings and let them ring out for a second. It will sound like this. And then following that, what's going to happen is, for the most part of part one of this introduction, you're going to leave your pointer finger right there where it is, where it's barred across your B and your high E at the 3rd fret. So leave your pointer finger right there. What you want to do next is you want to take either your pinky or your ring finger, take one of the other, it doesn't matter, but take one of the other and place one of them on the 5th fret of your high E string. And now once you've done that, we're then going to once again strum from the D string down. Here, the notes that we will be playing will be the open D string, the open G. Now we're playing the 3rd fret of the B still, and we're playing the 5th fret of the high E string. So that will sound like this. So far all together here in part one, we have this played slowly. And then following that, what you're going to do is you're going to pick your pinky or your ring finger out of the way, and your pointer finger is still barred there at the 3rd fret across the B and the high E string. What we're going to do next is you're going to pick the high E string 2 times. Then you're going to pick the B string 1 time. Then you're going to pick the high E string 1 more time. So far all together here in part one of the introduction, we have this played slowly. And then after that, what you're going to do is you're going to move your pointer finger down 1 fret so that now you're at the 2nd fret here. Now the note that we were going to be playing next will be the 2nd fret of the high E string. What I do is, since I had my pointer finger barred, I just move my pointer finger down. I continue to bar across the B and the high E, even though I'm not going to be playing my B string. So I've moved my pointer finger down 1 fret. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to pick the high E string only. I'll be playing the 2nd fret of the high E. It will sound like this. So far all together in part one, we have this played slowly. And then what you're going to do is you want to take your middle finger and place it on the 3rd fret of your B string. Play that note 1 time. And then following that, you're going to play the open D string. And that will end the first part of the introduction. To play the open D will sound like this. So that's part one. Part one played all together and slowly. Part one played in roll speed. And now moving into part two, what we're going to do is we're going to form another open position power chord. Here, this chord is going to be known as a D5 open position power chord. Here in this position, we're going to play it by taking our ring finger and placing it here on the 3rd fret of your B string. And then you want to take your pointer finger and place it on the 2nd fret of your G. So the two notes that I currently have pressed down are the 2nd fret of the G with my pointer finger, and then the 3rd fret of my B string with my ring finger. And now what I'm going to do to begin in part two is I'm going to pick my D, my G, and my B strings together. The three notes that I will be playing there will be the open D string, the 2nd fret of the G, and the 3rd fret of the B. That will sound like this to begin part two. And then after I've done that, throughout part two of the introduction, you're going to leave your pointer finger and your ring finger right there where they are. So you leave those two fingers there. What you're going to do next is you're going to take your middle finger and place it on the 3rd fret of your D string, and you're going to pick that note one time. And then following that, you're going to then pick the G and the B strings together. So all in all, here in part two, we have this played slowly. And then after that, what you're going to do is you're going to, like I said, you'll leave your pointer finger and ring finger right where they are. Place your middle finger onto the 3rd fret of your D string. And what you're going to do is you're going to pick that note, the 3rd fret of the D, and after you've picked it, you're going to take your pinky and you're going to hammer on to the 4th fret of your D. That will sound like this played slowly. And to look at that hammer on from this angle right here, it looks like this. So far, all together here, in part two, we have this played slow. And now after you've hammered on from the 3rd fret of your D to the 4th fret of the D string, what you're going to do then is you will once again pick the G and the B strings together. Those two notes have not changed. It's still the 2nd fret of the G and the 3rd fret of the B. To play those two together will sound like this. All together here in part two, we have this played slow. And then after that, what you're going to do is you're going to once again pick the 3rd fret of your D string one time. And then to end this part, you'll pick your middle finger up off the board and you'll play the D string open. And that ends part two. Part two played all together and slow. Part two played in roll speed. Parts one and two of the introduction played together in roll speed. And now for part three, the third and final part of the introduction. What we're going to do is we go back to our first chord, the G5 open position power chord. We'll strum that chord once again and let it ring out. Then you will continue to hold that shape. You will leave your pointer finger there barred across your B and your high E. What you'll do is once again you'll place your pinky or your ring finger onto the 5th fret of your high E string. Then once again strum one time in a downward motion from your D string down. It will sound like this. Then following that, pick your pinky up off the board. Your pointer finger is still barred there at the 3rd fret of the B and the high E. You will pick your high E string 2 times. Then pick your B string once. Then pick the high E once again. So far here in part 3 we have this played slow. Then after that, you'll move your pointer finger down 1 fret. You will pick the 2nd fret of your high E string 1 time. Then place your middle finger onto the 3rd fret of your B string here and pick that note once. And then you're going to pick your D string open. And then after that, we will form that D5 open position power chord that we've went over. You'll strum it 1 time and let it ring out to end the introduction. So that ends part 3. That also ends the notes that are contained here in the introduction. Part 3 played all together in slow. Part 3 played in roll speed. And now here's parts 1 through 3 that make up the introduction, played together in roll speed. So that's the introduction there. The song begins. We'll play parts 1 through 3 together only 1 time. And then following that, we move into our verse riff. Now moving into the first verse. During the song, there's 2 verses. And each time we move into the verse, we will begin by playing what is known as a G5 power chord. A G5 power chord is formed by placing your pointer finger on the 3rd fret of your low E. You'll place your ring finger on the 5th fret of your A, and then below it, you'll place your pinky on the 5th fret of your D string. This is known as a G5. And if you find this chord to be difficult to form, it can be modified so that your pointer finger is on the 3rd fret of your low E, and then you'll place your pinky on the 5th fret of your A. In this position here, you will only be playing the top 2 strings. But the song is played in the first way that I showed. It's a 3-finger power chord known as a G5. And like I said, there's 2 verses during the song, and each time we move to the verse, the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to play this G5 power chord. You're going to play it, and you're going to continue to press down firmly for just a second, and then you're going to pick your fingers up off the board to stop those 3 notes from ringing out. It will sound like this. And then following that, what you're going to do is after we played that G5 power chord, just kind of push that to the side so that I can find a pattern here. Once we played the G5, I have then broken the rest of the verse down into 2 parts. So we've played the G5 power chord, that's done. Now we begin in part 1 of the verse riff. And what we're going to do to begin in part 1 is we're going to form what is known as a C5 power chord. This power chord is formed by placing your pointer finger on the 3rd fret of your A string, place your ring finger on the 5th fret of your D, and then below it, place your pinky on the 5th fret of your G. And once again, if this chord is too difficult, you can place your pinky on the 5th fret of your D string. And if you choose to do that, you can only play the A and the D strings, which would be the 3rd fret of the A and then the 5th fret of the D. But the actual chord is played as a 3-finger power chord. Here's known as a C5. And what we're going to do here to begin in part 1 is we're going to form this chord. We're going to be pressing down firmly on those 3 notes. And we're going to strum this chord down and then up. It will sound like this. And then after you've done that, you're going to move your shape up, move each finger up 1 string so that we're back at that G5 power chord. You'll form it and you'll strum it down 1 time. So far here in part 1 we have this played slow. And then after that, we're going to move back to our C5 power chord. And you're going to strum it down 1 time. So far here in part 1 of the verse, we have this played slow. And then after you've done that, you will move back to the G5 once again, strum it down 1 time. So far here in part 1 of the verse, we have this played slow. And then after that, to end the first part, we're going to move to what is known as a D5 power chord. This chord is formed by placing your pointer finger on the 5th fret of your A, place your ring finger on the 7th fret of your D, and below it, place your pinky on the 7th fret of your G. This is known as a D5 power chord, and once again it can be modified by placing your pinky on the 7th fret of your D. Here you will just be playing the A and the D strings if you choose to play this chord that way. But the first way that I showed is the way the song is played. It's known as a D5. We will pick from our A, our D, and our G strings together in a downward motion. It will sound like this. And that will end part 1 of the verse. Part 1 played all together in slow. So that's part 1 played slow, part 1 played in real speed. So that's part 1 played in real speed. Moving into part 2, what we're going to do is those 3 chords I talked about, those are the 3 chords that we're going to use in both verses. Those are the only 3 chords. So in part 2, what we're going to do is we're going to begin it by forming the G5 power chord. You'll strum it down and then up. Then after that, you're going to move to that D5 power chord. You'll strum it down 1 time. So far here in part 2 of the verse, we have this played slowly. Then after that, we'll move back to the G5, strum it down 1 time. So far here in part 2, we have this played slow. And then after that, we'll move back to the D5, play it down 1 time. And then move back to the G5 and play it down 1 time. And that will end part 2 of the verse, of our verse riff here. To play part 2 all together in slow will sound like this. Part 2 played in real speed. So that's part 2. Parts 1 and 2 played together in real speed will sound like this. So that's what the verse is made up of. Like I said, whenever we begin, you'll play the G5 power chord 1 time, and then after that, we'll play parts 1 and 2 of the verse, what I just talked about. You will play them together a total of 5 times. So that's what I'm going to do. Here I'm going to play the G5 power chord, and then I'm going to play parts 1 and 2 of our verse in real speed together 5 times. Now to do that in real speed will sound like this. So that's what we have so far here for our first verse. I played the G5 and then I played parts 1 and 2 together 5 times. Now after we've done that, what you're going to do is this. You're then going to play part 1 only, which is this. And after you've done that, you're going to strum on this D5 power chord for 2 measures to set us up for the chorus. And that'll sound like this. And by doing that, that ends the first verse. So now here what I'm going to do is I'm going to play all of the first verse, which all in all it consists of this. You're going to start with the G5, then we'll play parts 1 and 2 together 5 times, then you'll play part 1 only, and then you'll strum on the D5 power chord there at the end to set you up for the chorus. Now here's the first verse played all together in real speed. that's the first verse, played in roll speed. Following that, we move into the chorus. Now after we played the first verse, we then move into our chorus. And what I want to do here is I'm first going to run through the chorus, through the chord progression one time, and then I'll break it down. To run through it just one time, the chorus is going to look and sound like this. So that's what the chorus consists of here. Now for the chorus here, I have broken it up into 3 parts. We begin in part 1 by forming a G major chord. This chord is formed by taking your middle finger and placing it here on the 3rd fret of your low E string. Place your pointer finger on the 2nd fret of your A. Place your ring finger on the 3rd fret of your B string, and then place your pinky below it on the 3rd fret of your high E. This is a G major chord. The notes in this chord are the 3rd fret of the low E, the 2nd fret of the A, the open D, the open G, the 3rd fret of the B, and then the 3rd fret of the high E string. Now to begin here in part 1, we form our G major chord. We first pick our top string only. Then after that, we will strum our bottom 5 strings one time in a downward motion. So far here in part 1 of the chorus, we have this. Then after that, what we're going to do is we're going to pick our middle finger and our pointer finger up off the board. We'll leave our ring finger and our pinky where they are. What we're going to do next is we're going to pick our A string open. Then place your pointer finger on the 2nd fret of your A and pick that note one time. Then place your middle finger on the 3rd fret of your A and pick that note one time. So far, all together here in part 1 of the chorus, we have this played slow. Then following that, what you're going to do is you're going to then pick your G string open. And then after that, you're going to pick your B and your high E strings together. You have your ring finger and your pinky there still. So far, all together here in part 1 of the chorus, we have this played slow. Then after that, you will leave your ring finger and your pinky where they are. Place your pointer finger onto the 2nd fret of your A string. You'll pick that note one time. And then after that, once again, play your G string open. And then after that, you will once again play your B and your high E strings together, still playing the 3rd frets of both those 2 strings. And by doing that, that ends part 1 of the chorus. The chorus, part 1, played all together in slow. So that's part 1 played slow, part 1 played in roll speed. So that's part 1 played in roll speed. Now for part 2 of the chorus, what we're going to do is we're going to form a D major chord. This chord is formed by taking your pointer finger and placing it here on the 2nd fret of your G. Your ring finger is on the 3rd fret of your B string, and then your middle finger goes on the 2nd fret of your high E. These are the 3 notes that we will hold down here, known as a D major chord. What we're going to do here in part 2 of the chorus is we're first going to pick our D string open. Then after you've done that, you will then pick the 2nd fret of your G where your pointer finger is. Then after that, you will pick your B and your high E strings together. And that will end part 2. Part 2 of the chorus played all together in slow. Part 2 played in roll speed. Now here I'm going to play parts 1 and 2 of the chorus together slow, and then I'll play them together in roll speed. Parts 1 and 2 of the chorus played together slow. Parts 1 and 2 played together in roll speed. And now moving into the 3rd part of the chorus, what we're going to do is we're going to basically move our ring finger has stayed on the 3rd fret of our B string the entire time. Now for part 3, you'll want to take your pinky and place it on the high E string, 3rd fret. And then what we're going to do here is we have those 2 notes held down, which are the 3rd fret of the B with my ring finger and the 3rd fret of the high E with my pinky. I have those 2 notes held down right now, and I'm going to leave my 2 fingers there throughout this part. What we do to begin in part 3 is we first play our A string open, then place your pointer finger on the 2nd fret of your A, play it once, then place your middle finger on the 3rd fret of your A and play it once. So far here in the 3rd part of the chorus, we have this played slow. After that, you will play your G string open, and then you will play your B and your high E strings together in an upward motion. It will be the 3rd fret of both the B and the high E. So far here in part 3, we have this played slow. Then after that, place your pointer finger on the 2nd fret of your A, play it once. Then after that, play your G string open. And then in an upward motion, pick your bottom 2 strings. And that will end the 3rd part of the chorus. Part 3 played all together in slow. Part 3 played in roll speed. So that's part 3. Parts 1 through 3 of the chorus that make up the chorus, played all together in slow, will sound like this. So that's parts 1 through 3 played slow, then played together in roll speed. So that's what the chorus is made up of. Now after we played the first verse, what we're going to do here is we're going to run through parts 1 through 3 there. We play them together a total of 2 times. And so to do that 2 times in roll speed will sound like this. So that's the way the chorus is played the first time. Now following the first chorus, we then move into our verse, the second verse. And like I said before, whenever we move into the verse, we immediately play the G5 power chord, then we pick our fingers up off the board to stop those notes from ringing out. It will sound like this. Then after we've done that, then we'll play parts 1 and 2 of our verse riff together 3 times, which is this. And then after we've done that, we will then play part 1 of the verse. And after we've done that, we will hang on the D5 power chord for a couple of measures, leading back into the next chorus. So to play part 1, after we've done that, we'll play part 1 of the verse, which is this. And then we will hang on the D5 power chord there to set us up for the next chorus. That makes up the second verse. To play verse 2 in roll speed, all together will sound like this. So that's the second verse there. And then after we've played that, we move into the chorus. Now for the second chorus. Here I'm going to play the second chorus in roll speed and then I'll break it down. But first, here's the second chorus played in roll speed. Now what's going on here in the second chorus is this. What happens is that for the second chorus we play parts 1, 2, and 3 together a total of 3 times, and then we play part 1 only. So to play all that slowly, here I'm going to play parts 1, 2, and 3 of the chorus. I'll play those 3 parts together 3 times, and then I'll play part 1 only. Here it is played slowly. So that's what the second chorus is made up of, and right after we do that, we're going to play a little transition that's tacked on the end here. And this transition is a transition, it allows us to get from the second chorus to the guitar solo. And what it is it's 3 chords that we've already been over. The first one is a D major. A quick review is that your pointer finger goes on the 2nd fret of your G, your ring finger goes on the 3rd fret of your B, and your middle finger goes on the 2nd fret of your high E string. You'll strum this chord however you would like, but this is the first chord in the transition. It sounds something like this. And then following that, the second chord is a G5 open position power chord. Ring finger stays on the 3rd fret of your B. Place your pinky onto the 3rd fret of your high E, and we'll be strumming our bottom 4 strings. Will sound like this. And then the third chord is a D5 open position power chord that we've went over. A quick review, your ring finger stays on the 3rd fret of your B. Place your pointer finger on the 2nd fret of your G. We'll be playing our D, G, and B strings. And you can also play the A string open if you would like. It sounds like this. So that makes up our transition. The transition played all together in slow. And the transition played in roll speed. So that's our transition there. Like I said, it's played after you've played that chorus. So whenever we see the second chorus here, all in all, it consists of this. It consists of us playing parts 1, 2, and 3 together 3 times, and then part 1, and then you play the transition. So once again, here's the second chorus played in roll speed. Now following playing that, we then move into the guitar solo, and here I'm going to first play it and then I'll break it down. But first, here's the guitar solo played one time in roll speed. Now for the guitar solo here, I've broken it down into 6 parts. In part 1, we begin by taking your ring finger and placing it here on the 5th fret of your G. Might also help you to place your middle finger on the 4th fret, and I'll also place my pointer finger on the 3rd fret of the G as well. I use my pointer finger and my middle finger to help me push my ring finger up the neck of the guitar. So the note that we're going to be playing here will be the 5th fret of the G where our ring finger is. I'm using my other 2 fingers to help me push that note up after I've picked it. And so that's what we're going to do. To begin here in part 1, we're going to pick our G string 5th fret and we're going to bend it up a full step and then continue to hold down and let the note ring out at the top of our bend. That will sound like this. And then following that, what you're going to do is you're going to take your pointer finger and you're going to bar across your B and your high E strings here at the 3rd fret. And what you're going to do first is you're going to pick the high E string 3rd fret. Then you're going to pick the B string 3rd fret. So far all together here in part 1 we have this played slow. And then after that, what you're going to do is you're going to place your pinky onto the 6th fret of your B string. Pick that note one time. So far all together here in part 1 we have this played slow. Then after we played the 6th fret of our B string, what you're going to do next is you're going to place your ring finger back onto the 5th fret of your G. You're going to pick it. This time you're going to bend it up a half a step, continue to press down firmly and bring the note back down to its original spot. That will sound like this. So far all together here in part 1 we have this played slow. And then following that, what you're going to do is you're going to place your pointer finger on the you're going to place your pointer finger on the 3rd fret of your G. You're going to pick that note one time. So far all together here in part 1 we have this played slow. Then what you're going to do is you're going to place your pinky onto the 5th fret of your D string, and you want to place your ring finger directly above it on the 5th fret of your A. I have those 2 notes pressed down now, which are the 5th fret of the A with my ring finger and the 5th fret of the D with my pinky. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to first pick the 5th fret of the D, then I'm going to pick the 5th fret of the A, and then I'm going to pick the 5th fret of the D once again. This time, after I've picked it here, I'm going to push that note up and down the neck, creating a vibrato. So all together here in part 1, we have this played slow. That right there ends part 1 of our solo. That was part 1 played slowly. Now here's part 1 played in real speed. And then following that, moving into part 2 of the solo, what we're going to do is for part 2, you're going to take the palm of your picking hand and you're going to lightly rest it on the strings next to your bridge so that we get a palm mute here. And we're going to have that palm mute here in part 2. Throughout this entire part, we're going to do a palm mute here. It's the only part in the solo that we palm mute. It's a very short part. What we're going to do is you're going to play, the last thing that we did in part 1 was we played the 5th fret of our D string with our pinky and we played a vibrato. Right after we do that, we move into part 2. You'll place your palm, like I said, right on the strings right next to your bridge to get a palm mute. You're going to once again pick the 5th fret of your D string. You'll pick it one time. Then place your pointer finger on the 3rd fret of your D string. Pick it one time. Then place your ring finger on the 5th fret of your A. Pick it once. And then place your pointer finger on the 3rd fret of your A string. You're going to pick it one time, and after you pick it, you'll then play a vibrato and hold that for a second. That'll sound like this. And by doing that, that ends the second part of the solo. Part 2 played all together in slow. Part 2 played in real speed. Now here's parts 1 and 2 played together in real speed. So that's parts 1 and 2. Moving into the third part, what we're going to do is you're going to place your pointer finger on the first fret of your A string. You'll play that note, and by the way, we no longer palm mute. Play the first fret of your A once. And then following that, place your ring finger on the third fret of your low E string. Play that note one time. So far here in part 3, we have this played slow. Then after that, you're going to place your pointer finger onto the third fret of your G. You're going to pick it, and after you pick it, you're going to just slightly pull that note down. We'll be pulling it down a quarter of a step. That'll sound like this. So far here in part 3, we have this played slow. Then after you've done that, you're going to place your pinky onto the fifth fret of your D and place your ring finger on the 5th fret of your A. Hold those two notes down. What we're going to do is we're going to first pick the D string 5th fret where our pinky is. Then pick the A string 5th fret where your ring finger is. And then once again pick the 5th fret of your D where your pinky is. And after you've picked it here, you'll play a vibrato. So far here in part 3, we have this played slow. After that, place your pointer finger back onto the 3rd fret of your G. You're going to pick it, and once again, just pull it down just a quarter of a step. And by doing that, that ends part 3 of the solo. Part 3 played all together in slow. So that's part 3 played slow. Part 3 played in real speed. And now here I want to play parts 1, 2, and 3. Everything that we've talked about so far in the solo, I want to play them all together in slow, and then I'll play them in real speed. So far we have this played slowly, parts 1, 2, and 3 played together. So that's parts 1, 2, and 3 played slowly. Parts 1, 2, and 3 played in real speed. And now moving into part 4 of the solo, we're going to begin it. You'll place your middle finger here on the 4th fret of your G. And what we're going to do is we're going to pick that note, and after we've picked it, you're going to continue to press down firmly, and you're going to slide all the way up to the 7th fret of your G. That will sound like this to begin in part 4, played slow. Now once you've slid up here to the 7th fret of your G, you're then going to leave your middle finger right there on the 7th fret of your G, and be sure that it's curved in a way so that you're not touching the string below it, your B string. So I slid up, I picked the 4th fret of the G, I slid up to the 7th fret, leave your middle finger right there, be sure it's curved so that you're not touching the B string. Place your pointer finger right here onto the 6th fret of your B string. And what we're going to do here next is we're going to pick the B string twice, the 6th fret. So far here in part 4 we have this played slow. Then following that, what you're going to do is you're going to then pick the 7th fret of your G where your middle finger is, and you're going to slide up to the 9th fret of the G. That will sound like this, played slow. And once you've done that, you'll leave your middle finger right there on the 9th fret of your G. What you'll do next is you'll place your pointer finger onto the 8th fret of your B string, and you're going to pick that note 2 times. So far, all together here in part 4, we have this played slow. Then next what we're going to do is you're going to I've got those two fingers still where they are, which is my middle finger is on the 9th fret of the G, and my pointer finger is on the 8th fret of my B string. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to pick the 9th fret of my G, where my middle finger is. Then I'm going to pick the 8th fret of my B string, where my pointer finger is, one time. And then after that, what I'm going to do is this. I'm then going to take my ring finger and place it here on the 10th fret of my B string. And right below it, I'm also going to place my pinky on the 10th fret of my high E string. So what's going to happen, what I'm going to do here is this. I'm going to pick my B string one time. And after I've picked it, I'm going to bend it up a full step and I'm going to hold it there. Once I've got it up to the top of that bend, I'm going to pick my high E string 10th fret where my pinky is. I know it's hard to see it right here, but that's why I'm telling you what's going on. So I'm going to pick the 10th fret of my B and bend it up. Then I'm going to pick the 10th fret of my high E string where my pinky is. And then I'm going to pick my B string once again, and I'm going to bring the note back down. So that's what's going on here. So far, all together here in part 4, we have this played slow. Now after we picked the 10th fret of our B string and we brought the note back down, which was the last thing that I did. After you've done that, you will then pick your ring finger up out of the way. You're going to place your pointer finger here on the 8th fret of your B string. You're going to pick that note one time. Then you're going to pick it once again. So far all together here in part 4 we have this played slow. Then after that, you're going to place your ring finger on the 11th fret of your B string. You're going to pick it and bend it up a full step. And then after that, what you're going to do is you're then going to pick the 11th fret of your B, and after you pick it here, you're going to slide up one fret to the 12th fret of your B. It will sound like this. So far, all together here in part 4, we have this played slow. Then after that, what you're going to do is you're going to place your pointer finger on the 8th fret of your B and place your middle finger on the 9th fret of your G, and be sure your middle finger is curved so that you're not touching the string below at your B. You'll hold those two notes down. What we're going to do is we're going to pick the 8th fret of our B first where our pointer finger is. Then pick the 9th fret of the G where your middle finger is. And then once again pick the 8th fret of your B string and here play a vibrato. And that will end part 4 of the solo, part 4 played all together in slow. So that's part 4 played slow. Here's part 4 played in roll speed. Parts 1 through 4 played in roll speed. So that's parts 1 through 4. They're played in roll speed. Following that, we move into the 5th part of the solo. What we're going to do here as it begins, you're going to take your ring finger and you're going to place it on the 18th fret of your B string. I'll also place my middle finger on the 17th fret and my pointer finger on the 16th fret of the B. I use my middle finger and my pointer finger to help me push my ring finger up the neck. Now what we're going to do here is this. We're going to pick the B string 18th fret where my ring finger is, and after I've picked it, I'm going to bend it up a full step. And once I get it to the top of my bend, I'm going to continue to press down firmly. And I'm just going to ever so slightly push that note up and down the neck, creating a vibrato at the top of that bend. So it's going to sound like this played slow. So that's what happens here to begin in part 5. Now after you've done that, what you're going to do is you're going to take your pointer finger and you're going to lay it flat on the neck of the guitar here at your 15th fret so that you bar across your high E and your B strings. You're going to first pick the high E string, then you're going to pick the 15th fret of your B string. So far here in part 5 of the solo we have this played slow. Then after that, what you're going to do is you're going to take your pinky and you're going to place it right here on the 18th fret of your B string. You're going to pick it one time. Then after that, you're going to place your ring finger on the 17th fret of your G. You're going to pick it and you're going to bend it up a full step and continue to press it down firmly and bring the note back down. So far all together here in part 5 of our solo, we have this played slow. Now after you've played the 17th fret with your ring finger and you pushed it up and brought it back down, what you'll do after you've done that is you're going to pick your ring finger up out of the way. Your pointer finger needs to be placed here at the 15th fret of your G. You're going to pick that note one time. Then after that, place your ring finger on the 17th fret of your D string and pick that note one time. So far all together here, we have this in part 5 played slow. Then what you're going to do after that is you're going to take your ring finger, you're going to flatten it out on the neck of the guitar so that you bar across your G and your B strings here at the 17th fret. So I've got those two notes held down. Both of those notes are held down by my ring finger being barred there. I'm going to pick the G and the B strings together. So far all together here in part 5 we have this played slow. Then after we've done that, you're going to place your pointer finger onto the 15th fret of your G. You're going to pick that note once. All together here in part 5 we have this played slow. Then after that, what you're going to do is you're going to place your ring finger on the 17th fret of your G, and you want to also place your pinky here on the 18th fret of your B string. So those are the two notes that I have to have held down to do these next couple of this next phrase of notes. So I've got my ring finger here on the 17th fret of my G, my pinky's on the 18th fret of my B. Now I also place my middle finger, my pointer finger behind my ring fingers. I'm going to be pushing my ring finger up the neck. So that's the formation that my hand is in now. And what we're going to do here is this. We're first going to pick the 17th fret of the G and we're going to bend it up a full step. Once we've bent it up a full step, we're then going to pick the 18th fret of our B string where our pinky is. So that's going to sound like this. Okay? So far all together here, we had this in part 5 played slow. And then what we're going to do after that is we're going to then once again, we held that same shape that we were in, where my ring finger is on the 17th fret of the G, my pinky is on the 18th fret of my B. I'm going to pick the 17th fret of the G once again. I'm going to bend it up a full step. This time I'm going to hold it there. I'm going to bend it up, hold it, and then I'm going to pick the B string, and then I'm going to pick the G string once again and bring that note back down. So it's going to sound like this played slow. Okay, so that's what happens next. So far all together here in part 5 we have this. Now after we pick the 17th fret, the 17th fret of our G, and we brought the note back down, what you're going to do after you've done that is you're then going to play the 15th fret of your G one time, then place your ring finger onto the 17th fret of your D, play it once. So far, all together here, we have this in part 5 played slow. Then after that, take your ring finger, bar across your G and your B strings here at the 17th fret. Pick those two notes. Then take your pointer finger and bar at the G, across the G and the B. Here at the 15th fret, pick those two notes. So far all together here in part 5, we have this played slow. Then next, what you're going to do is you're going to place your ring finger onto the 17th fret of your D, play it one time. Then take your pointer finger and once again bar across your G and your B strings here at the 15th fret. Pick those two notes, then continue to press down firmly and slide your finger down the neck. It will sound like this. Now by doing that, that ends the 5th part of this solo. To play it all together in slow will look and sound like this. That's part 5 played slow, part 5 played in real speed. Parts 1 through 5 played together in real speed. Now that's parts 1 through 5 played together in real speed. Following that, we move into the 6th and final part of the guitar solo. We begin here by placing our ring finger onto the 18th fret of our high E string. Now what we're going to do is we're going to pick that note and bend it up a full step. It will sound like this. Following that, you're going to place your pinky onto the 19th fret of your high E string. You'll play that note one time. So far here in the 6th part, we have this played slow. And then after that, what you're going to do is you're going to place your ring finger onto the 17th fret of your high E. You're going to bend that note up a full step. Once you've bent it up, you will then pick your high E string and bring the note down. So it's known as a pre-bend. It will sound like this. So far all together here in part 6, we have this played slow. Now following that, what you're going to do is you're going to place your pointer finger here on the 15th fret of your high E string. You'll play that note one time. Then after that, you're going to leave your pointer finger right there where it is on the 15th fret of your high E. Next, place your pinky onto the 17th fret of your high E. Play that note once. Then after that, place your ring finger above your pinky on the 17th fret of your B string. Play that note one time. After that, once again, move those fingers out of your way. We're going to play the 15th fret of our high E string once again. Then after that, you're going to place your ring finger onto the 18th fret of your B. You're going to pick it and bend it up a full step. So all together here in the 6th and final part, we have this played all together in slow. And then after we've done that, that's everything that we've talked about so far. After we've done that, what you're going to do is you're going to take your pointer finger and you're going to bar here at your 15th fret across your B and your high E strings. And what you're going to do is you're first going to pick your B string, then pick your high E string. Then you want to place your pinky on the 18th fret of your B and play that note one time. So all together here in part 6, we have this played slow. Then after that, you're going to place your ring finger onto the 17th fret of your G. You're going to pick it, and then after you picked it, you're going to bend it up a full step. Continue to press down firmly and bring the note back down. It will sound like this. Then after you've done that, you're going to pick your ring finger up, place your pointer finger here on the 15th fret of your G. You're going to play that once. And then after that, place your ring finger back onto the 17th fret of your G. You're going to pick it. And after you've picked it, you're going to slide up 2 frets to the 19th fret. And once you get to the 19th fret, you're going to push that note up and down the neck, creating a vibrato. So that's going to sound like this. All together here in part 6, we have this played slow. Then after that, what we're going to do is you're going to place your middle finger here on the 15th fret of your B string. You're going to pick it, and after you picked it, you'll slide up to the 17th fret. That will sound like this. Once you slid up to the 17th fret, leave your middle finger right there on the 17th fret of your B. Be sure it's curved so that you're not touching the string below it, your high E. After you've slid up, you'll place your pointer finger onto the 15th fret of your high E, and you're going to play that note one time. So far here in part 6, we have this all together played slow. So that's everything we talked about so far. Last thing we did was we played the 15th fret of our high E string one time. What you're going to do is you're going to pick your B string 17th fret once again. Then you're going to pick your high E string once again, 15th fret, where your pointer finger is. And then what you're going to do is you're going to place your ring finger onto the 17th fret of your high E. You're going to pick it, bend it up a full step, continue to press it down firmly and bring it back down. It will sound like this. And after you've done that, you'll pick your ring finger up. You're going to play the 15th fret of your high E, and after you play it, you're going to slide down the neck of the guitar. It will sound like this. And that ends part 6. Part 6 played all together in slow. That's part 6 played all together in slow. Here I'm going to pick up the pace just a little bit. Not quite at real speed, but a little faster. Here's part 6. Will sound like this. And now part 6 played in real speed. And now here what I want to do is I want to play parts 1 through 6 all together in slow, and then I'll play parts 1 through 6 that make up the solo in roll speed. But first, here's parts 1 through 6 played all together in slow. So that's parts 1 through 6 played together in slow. Now here's parts 1 through 6 that played together all together in roll speed that make up the solo. Immediately after the guitar solo, we then move back into our chorus riff, where here we're going to play parts 1, 2, and 3 together 3 times, and then we'll play part 1 only. So to do that here, I'm going to say I just got through playing the guitar solo. I'm going to play parts 1, 2, and 3 of our chorus together 3 times, and then I'm going to play part 1 only. To do that in roll speed will sound like this. So that there is parts 1, 2, and 3 of our chorus played together 3 times, and then I played part 1 only. Following that, we're going to play an outro here to end the song. And what I want to do first is I'm just going to play the outro and then I'll explain it. But first, here's the outro played 1 time in roll speed. So that's the outro played 1 time in roll speed, and what we're going to do here is this. You're going to form the D5 open position power chord, and you're going to strum that chord down twice. Then following that, what you're going to do is you're going to play your A string open, then place your pointer finger on the 2nd fret of your A, play that 1 time. Then place your middle finger on the 3rd fret of your A and play it once. So far here in the outro, we have this played slow. Then after you've played the 3rd fret of your A, I'm going to move my middle finger, my pointer finger out of the way, even though you would leave those 2 fingers right there. But I'm going to move those out of the way so you can see what happens. What you do after we've played the 3rd fret of the A is you're then going to pick the G string open. And then your ring finger's on the 3rd fret of your B still. What you want to do is take your pinky and add it to the 3rd fret of your high E string. You'll pick your B and your high E strings together. That will be the 3rd frets of those 2 strings. So far here in this part, in the outro, we had this played slow. Then after that, place your pointer finger onto the 2nd fret of your A. You'll leave your ring finger and pinky where they are. Play the 2nd fret of your A string. And then play the open G. And and then once again pick your B and your high E strings together. And that makes up the outro riff. To run through it all together in slow. So that's the outro riff played slow. To run through it one time in real speed will sound like this. So that's it right there. And what we're going to do here, what makes up the outro, is we're going to do that, play that, what I just talked about, we'll play it a total of 2 times. And to do that in real speed twice will sound like this. Then after we've done that twice, to end the song, you're going to form that D5 power chord once again, and you're just going to strum it until the end of the song. It'll sound something like this. So that's what happens. So after the guitar solo, like I said, we play parts 1, 2, and 3 of our chorus together 3 times, and then part 1. Then we run through that outro 1 time, and then that's going to be the end of the song. So what I want to do here is I just want to play everything that happens right after the guitar solo in real speed. And to do that will sound like this. And so that's what happens right after the guitar solo that ends the song. And that is going to be You Shook Me All Night Long by AC/DC.